What would you do if you were given the chance, as many times as you want, to live your life over again and make different choices? Would you take that chance and try a new path? Or would you stay the course and try to see what life brings you? Now, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have a very extensive to be read list. My husband is also very guilty of this. His to be read list is equally impressive. So the last book I finished, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to deviate from my list and I'm going to go steal something from his stack and give it a try. Now, he'd already read this and said it was really good and didn't give me any spoilers, so I picked this one up. I have a lot of different tastes in books compared to him. My husband leans heavily into sci-fi and fantasy, but as you guys can tell, I really like thrillers. I like mysteries. I like horror. A lot of these genres, though, do overlap, and there are elements of many genres in books, so I took the book from him, The Midnight Library. This one is by Matt Haig, and this one was in his I Have Read This stack. But I had a feeling it would be something of interest to me. When I read the cover and the synopsis, I thought, yeah, I'm going to give this one a try. For those of you who don't know, this book was actually really popular in 2020 when it was released. I'm sure there are probably tons of reviews already out there, but I really want to give this one a review on my own. I do think it actually won the Goodreads, well, one of the books, at least one Goodreads Book of the Year in 2020 as well. So the quick blurb for this book, if those of you are already lapsing on attention: mid-30s Nora, she's suffering from pretty serious depression, and she's decided that her life is not worth living and tries to take her own life. She wakes up in what's called the Midnight Library and is offered the choice to live through as many outcomes of her life until she finds one that makes her genuinely happy. That's it. Spoiler free. If that's all you're here for, enjoy. Let me know what you think of the book. For those of you still here with me at this point, first off, you're awesome. Thank you very much. And let's do a bit more of an in-depth summary here. Let's go over the technical bits first. This book is fiction, fantasy, and mental health genres. It is 304 pages, and it was published in August of 2020. So this book has been around for a while, and it's not the only book that Matt Haig has written. But I think it is his most famous / popular. Basically, the idea of this book is that between life and death, you're given a choice. And that choice looks different for everybody. For one guy, it was a place with endless VHS tapes. For Nora, it's a library. And she's there because she tried to take her own life. This choice that she's presented with basically makes things right, I guess, by choosing different options. So you have the choice to try and fix your past regrets and see how your life will turn out if you've done things differently. And interestingly enough, there are an infinite number of choices in the library, so the paths that she takes are pretty much endless. But they do affect everyone she knows and even people she's never met before, which was really interesting. The idea is that Nora is set to find what path is best for her and how she wants to live. Find the path in life that will make her genuinely happy. From here on out, I'm going to give you guys my opinions of the book, so if you don't want spoilers, I can recommend clicking to the end where I'm going to rate the book. For those of you who want to hear my personal opinion on the book, here we go. First, I want to do a structured analysis of the plot and the storyline. So the plot to this story, I thought, moved along really well. It flowed nicely, and it didn't really have any dead spots. Nora ended up jumping between many optional paths in the library, and I thought those actually all flowed together really nicely. The author laid it out for you at the beginning of what her various talents were, so you were presented with the obvious choices she could have taken very early on. What has she become a rock star? What has she been a glaciologist? What has she been an Olympic swimmer? So it was no real surprise that when she starts choosing different paths in the library, that those are the things that she chooses to go down and see how her life would have been. He does a really good job of wrapping up each potential happy ending too, and gives it kind of a purpose as to why she attempted whichever path she chose. And I did think the plot supplied good moments of tension. Halfway through the book, the library kind of starts to crumble down and it's getting shaky and the lights are flickering and you think, oh shit, her time is up. That added layer of suspense was great for getting you further invested emotionally into the book because I didn't want Nora's time to run out. I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I really want her to find something that's genuinely going to make her happy so she can turn this around. And he did a good job of adding suspension by reminding you her time is finite. She can't stay in the library forever. And you really start rooting for Nora to hurry up and get her happy ending too. With that being said, I think the pacing of this book was really excellent as well. I don't know at the pace which everybody reads. Everybody's different, but I'm a pretty fast reader. So I devoured this book in about an afternoon. I do think you'll have a hard time putting it down once you start going. The pacing really keeps the story moving along nicely. At no point during the story was I bored or felt like the storyline lacked purpose. And that itself is great because there really aren't many worse things when you're reading a book than excessive description or unnecessary plot that just adds a few more pages to the book. Like, yuck, gross. The next thing I want to cover is character development. Now, obviously, Nora is our main character, and I will just say Nora's character growth was exceptional. She starts off exceedingly depressed, and for really good reasons. I'm not dismissing her depression at all. He spends the first, I think, few chapters, painting what her current life is like, how she feels the way it does, and you also watch it spiral. You can really tell her life feels full of regret. She's miserable, and she's just seeing disappointment at every turn. So when she ultimately decides to take her life, you realize she's decided that her life isn't worth living anymore and feels like she has nothing left to offer the world, which is really, really sad. The book starts out definitely with a gut punch and makes you feel really, really sad. But once she starts going through the alternate options for her life, that's when I really feel like you see Nora blossom as a character. In my opinion, Matt Haig does an amazing job of showing how Nora grows over time and she begins to realize the value in her life. Watching her grow as a person really, really invested me in her character. From the very start of the book to the very end, I was really pulling for her to figure it out and find her happy ending. There were some themes and symbols in this book that I'd like to cover too. The first one is the obvious one. This book is really heavy on depression and mental health. It's clear right from the start that Nora is extremely depressed. She's on, depression medication. She's suffering from suicidal thoughts. If you find that triggering, I really suggest please, reconsider reading this book. This book might not be for you. I did read other reviews of this book too. Once I was finally done, I went online and I was surprised at the number of people who felt that this was just a self-help book in disguise. The volume of negative reviews really genuinely startled me. I thought Nora's journey, to me, it was clear it was one from starting off from depression to acceptance and healing. And I will say, I can see how the advice of Nora that she's given at least, can be viewed in a preachy tone, but I didn't really take it that way. I thought the advice was heartwarming and really honest. And I thought it also added to the book, instead of making the book feel worse, like the vast majority of the reviews, that was their biggest complaint. that Nora's advice was cheesy, felt self-helpy, and it was missing the true marks of depression. I really don't agree with that really at all. I felt Nora, to me, as a character, was someone who truly needed help. And I think the hard truths that she experienced throughout the book were the source of guidance that she had definitely been missing in her life before that. Now, that's vague, so let me give you an example of what I mean. The librarian is consistently telling Nora, the only way to learn is to live. She's reminded of that several times. And she kind of scoffs at that and says the whole point is why she's here in the first place is that she doesn't want to live anymore. But by the time we make it 2/3 of the way through the book, she finally has an understanding to what the librarian has been telling her the entire time. Let me read you a quote that I think sums this up really well, and it allows you to see Nora's growth and her change of heart. She says, "I think it's easy to imagine there are easier paths. Realizing something for the first time. But maybe there are no easy paths in life. There are just paths. Every second of every day we are entering a new universe. And we spend so much time wishing our lives were different, comparing ourselves to people and other versions of ourselves, when really most lives contain degrees of good and bad." I think that quote right there does a really good job of comparing and demonstrating the amount of growth that Nora undergoes. She's finally learned to accept that she's not perfect. Life isn't perfect, but she seems like she has this acceptance that she can make the best of things in her life and decide her own fate. If you guys don't find that heartwarming, I really don't know what is. Now, for the most important part, my recommendation. I am going to rate this book 5 hearts. I have not had many of those this year. I think this is the 3rd book only that I've given 5 hearts this year. But when I tell you guys this, I mean it. This book moved my soul. I loved the message about life and happiness, and that surrounded this book, and I think it is a must read. The reread potential is there too. I'm absolutely going to keep this one in my library, and I think it will be one of those books going forward I'll probably read once a year. This book is probably in the running, in my opinion, for the best book that I've read all year. I really, truly do mean that. I think life is full of endless possibilities, and I really, really love the message from this book. So if you guys haven't read this one yet and you want to read something heartwarming, I really, really recommend going to read this book. I think it will change your life. Let me know what you think, of course, because there are varying opinions out there. Like I told you guys, there are people who hate this book, and I really want to know what you guys think. I'm interested to see if you guys loved it as much as I do, or if you're on the other side of the fence and you think it's garbage. I want to gab about this book to someone, so please go read it so we can chat about it. Until next time, I hope you guys have an amazing week ahead, and let me know what's still on your to-be read list. I want to know what you guys are going to read next.